Hello and welcome to an episode of a Disney review. I'm your host, Sassycritic, and today we are talking about Mufasa the Lion King. Is this film good? Or is it as bad as the critics say it is? Um, is this at least better than the 2019 version of The Lion King? We are about to find out. Now, I do have to admit, I watched this movie 2 weeks ago. I recorded a full on review that was like over 26 minutes. And then after watching the review, I wasn't all that happy with what I'd said. So I deleted and, scrapped that entirely. And then life got hectic and I just never recorded any videos, even though I've been watching movies. But I'm so glad to be back and to finally just re-record and just catch up with all the reviews, because I just love to share my thoughts. And I honestly missed reviewing films so much with the week that I was gone. Um, but before we just do jump in, if you are new or if you're coming back, welcome or welcome back. I'm Sassy Critic. I talk about films and television shows and everything around it. I especially love to talk about Disney films, and if you haven't checked it out already, please check out my ranking of the Disney 2D animated films. It is up on my profile as we speak. But today we're going to be talking about Mufasa. It came out late last year, and I only got the opportunity to watch it 2 weeks ago when it came onto Disney Plus. So now here we are. We're going to be talking about that. Now, what is Mufasa about? Mufasa is the backstory to who else? Mufasa, and how he joins Scar's pride. Yep, joins Scar's pride, or rather, Scar back then would actually be called Taka. Yep, that's right. Mufasa and Scar are not brothers in the 2019 and this version, universe, because it's two different universes. But anyway, yeah, they are not related. They are not blood. And it talks about Mufasa's journey. How did he become king? The Lion King. You get it because it's in the title. This film was structured in a way that reminded me a lot of the 2D animated sequels, because what they did was, the beginning of the film, you have Kiara with Timon and Pumbaa and Rafiki, and Rafiki is going to be telling the story of Mufasa. And that reminded me a lot of this one Tarzan sequel. And there was a Beauty and the Beast sequel where they had this kind of storytelling, which is interesting, because I do recall that with the Tarzan one, it included all the characters that were there in the story. So it would be like, why would you tell the same story to the people who were literally there to witness it? But I do have to say, or rather give credit where credit is due, that for Mufasa, they telling the story to Kiara, and Kiara wasn't born, obviously, so she wasn't there. Neither were Timon and Pumbaa. So at least they were smart enough to just like, yeah, this is going to be the story we are going to tell, and it is to new listeners. So as Kiara, Timon, and Pumbaa are hearing the story for the first time, as the audience are also witnessing it for the first time, which I found to be pretty interesting. I do have to say, though, it was a bit distracting at times when you want to get into the film and then all of a sudden it cuts back to Rafiki and Timon and Pumbaa with Kiara, and it's like, oh yeah, they were telling the story to Kiara. I would have actually preferred it if maybe they didn't do that, or if they are going to stick to that structure, that they try and do it in a way that would be more smooth, because it did feel like the movie was stopping dead in its tracks, just so that we can be reminded as the audience, like, oh yeah, this is a story being told. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they either needed to make it smooth, or they needed to just take it away and then just go in with the introduction. Because I'm pretty sure that when you watch the trailer to Mufasa, you get the sense of, oh, okay, this is the origin story of Mufasa. I don't know if they were trying to do that to try and make it so nostalgic for, people of my generation, and especially millennials who grew up watching not only the 1994 version, but also the straight to DVD, the straight to VHS, or rather straight to video Disney sequels that were very prominent in the 90s and early 2000s. But it just felt like they needed to really work on that. And so anyway, the movie starts off with the story being told to Kiara. Where Simba and Nala are, I don't know if they've explained it, because I've watched the movie. I've watched the intro twice, once by myself, the second time with my family. And then I also watched recaps on The Lion King. And I don't think it specifies where Simba and Nala are. It just shows them going into this particular area, but we do find out what happens at the end of the film, so we'll get there when we get there. So the story starts off, or rather the story that Kiara is told, starts off with Mufasa with his parents. As I said, so Scar is not there. Scar and Mufasa in this particular film are not brothers, and they have not met yet. So Mufasa is with his parents, and his mother shows him, the light that touches. It's Milele. All right, and I was just like, oh, that's interesting. We're gonna include a name. I don't think they included Milele or the word Milele in any of the Lion King sequels, so that was an interesting touch. Showing him that. Then they go to the water, and there's a storm all of a sudden, and Mufasa is washed away from his parents and is separated. He then comes across Scar, who in this version is called Taka, and Taka saves him from a crocodile attack. Yeah. Mufasa then gets introduced to Taka's family, and Taka's father, Obasi, is not very welcoming to Mufasa. In fact, he's saying that, like, I can eat the outsider. And it's very clear that Taka's pride is not very welcoming to outsiders, but Taka's mother is very welcoming to Mufasa. And she kind of takes on this very maternal role to Mufasa, since Mufasa has been separated from his parents. So we then get into the one song that's been popular on TikTok, Staying Away From My Brother. I'm not going to sing the full song here, but you know which one I'm talking about. And so basically they have to do this race where if Taka wins, then Mufasa must be outlawed. But if Mufasa wins, then Mufasa can stay with the rest of the pride. This part of the movie reminded me a lot of Tarzan. If any of you have seen the film Tarzan, the original animated one, you would know that in the beginning of the film, we see that Tarzan gets separated from his parents, or rather his parents get eaten by a leopard. And I think the gorilla's name is Kala. Kala's baby gets eaten by the leopard as well. But then Kala comes across baby Tarzan and takes him under her wing, and the baby joins the group of gorillas. I don't know what a group of gorillas are called, but that's what happens. And so it was interesting to see how it's the same dynamic. Kala is the one who kind of becomes this maternal figure to Tarzan, while the father, who is the head of the group of gorillas, is pretty much against is against Tarzan, and we see the same dynamic in Mufasa, where we see Taka's mother. Forgive me, I can't remember her name, but she kind of takes on this maternal role into Mufasa, is very protective over him. But then we have Obasi, who just does not believe in keeping Mufasa in with the pride. And what I will say about this particular part of the movie is that even though it reminded me of one of my favorite Disney movies ever, it didn't mean I enjoyed it all that much. I did not like of the it just felt like the same. A part of me wanted to go watch Tarzan instead, but here we are. Anyway, they race. Mufasa wins. Mufasa joins the pride, but Obasi says that he must join the lionesses, while Taka must join the males. Right, so we already see this kind of separation of Taka and Mufasa. Now, one thing that they introduced in this movie that was very inconsistent was the super smell sort of thing that they gave to Mufasa. Okay, I need to explain this. So, Mufasa is gifted with this superpower of smell. And it's weird and it's inconsistent because at times it works to its full advantage, and then at other times, not really. It's so weird because okay, I'm gonna give an example of this. This is not in order, but anyway, there's a part in the movie where he can smell an antelope from like a mile away, and then Taka's mother is like, are you sure it's not a gazelle? And then it's like, no, there's a difference. And then it's like, okay, Mufasa has super senses now. But then later on in the movie, where we see Sarabi is also introduced in this film, and after he's talking to Sarabi, one of the outlaw lions, who are the actual villains of the film, is talking to Taka, and for some reason, Mufasa does not pick up that scent. And it was just weird. And it's so inconsistent. He picks up Sarabi's fur, like the flowers that were on her fur. Like he picks up the scent. He picks up a gazelle's scent, but he doesn't pick up the fact that the outlaw is not too far away from them. Like, it's so weird. And then this is like much later in the film, like this is like the last act of the film, but anyway, the part where the fact that the outlaw lion is following them using a trail that Taka leaves for him, and Mufasa still can't smell it. It's I don't know. It's very inconsistent. I wish it was more consistent with that, but it wasn't. Speaking of the outlaws, they were attacking the pride at some point, and so Obasi thinks it's a good idea for Taka and for Mufasa to run away. And so they do. As they run away, they come across some familiar characters that we've seen from the 2019 and the 1994 version, which are they come across Rafiki, played by John Carney. By the way, I got so excited for John Carney. We'll get to that a little bit later. Zazu, who is again, we'll get to that when we get to that. And then Sarabi, who I did mention earlier in this video. So that was an interesting one. I do have to say though, in terms of its comedy, it wasn't that funny. It wasn't all that entertaining in the comedic aspect. Although I do have to admit, and I've heard people say that they don't really like Zazu in this movie. They found him to be a bit annoying. I personally found him funny. There's a joke that he makes about liking a flamingo. And I was like, okay, that's random. But then he looks at the camera and he goes, I did not tell anyone this. I keep it a secret. And like I genuinely I was laughing so much. Like that was actually a funny joke. Yeah, so I was like, okay, that was genuinely funny. Keep it up. Like I don't mind having Zazu around. We get to see that Zazu is actually with Sarabi, which is an interesting thing, that considering that in the 2019 version and in the 1994 version, Zazu is more loyal to Mufasa, but okay, interesting choice. So we find out, Sarabi was separated from her pride. I thought they were going to do this thing where we find out that Sarabi and Mufasa were coming from the same pride. So at some point, Mufasa was separated from his pride, and then Sarabi was separated from her pride. And then, now that they are, older and that sort of thing, they are sort of reunited. So sort of like a Simba and Nala sort of situation. But they didn't do that in this movie, which is fine. I don't have too much issues with that. And then there's Rafiki. So Rafiki has his... I think the problem with Rafiki is the fact that like his story, it's because like he has visions, and the group of mandrills, because I found out that Rafiki is not a baboon, he's a mandrill. So the group of mandrills that he was with like kicked him out basically. So he went along, and that's how he joins. And Rafiki being Rafiki says, well, I'm moving forward. And I was just like, okay, well, there's that wittiness from Rafiki. Rafiki has been played by John Carney, and every time that John Carney is in a film, I get so excited. Maybe it's because I'm patriotical to a certain extent, but I love the fact that John Carney is in this film. Like I'm an official fan. And it was so interesting to see him in this movie. Like, obviously, like, hear his voice in this movie as Rafiki. So, we get to that part. I know this review is, like, all over the place. I'm not really giving it in the event order, but I am trying my best. I did see this movie, like, 2 weeks ago, but yeah. At some point, they get to the snowy... they get chased by the outlaws. They end up in the snowy mountains. And Mufasa and Sarabi are talking, but the thing is Taka likes Sarabi, and so Mufasa is trying to get Taka to talk to Sarabi, but when Taka talks to Sarabi, it's so awkward, and Sarabi just ends up liking Mufasa instead. Like, there's a part where she's like, you smelt my fur. And it's I know it sounds weird when I say it, but it's true. Like, Mufasa smelt the fur. He smelt the flowers on her. That was not Taka at all. And so Mufasa's just like so in denial. Denial about it. We're just like, okay, this is one of those films where Sarabi fell first. Yep, Sarabi fell in love first with Mufasa, which is cute. Speaking of cute, like, I found them to be a genuinely cute couple. I was just like, yes, this is so adorable, and I love it. I'm all for it. So I was enjoying that part. Taka gets jealous of the relationship between Sarabi and Mufasa, and that's when he goes to the outlaw lion and betrays them, leaves the tracks down so that they can so that the outlaw can attack Mufasa. There's one particular part in the movie. This is at the climax where, you know, the outlaw is about to attack Mufasa, and we see that he's about to give, the claw with the eye. But we see how Taka got his name Scar and how he got the scar in the first place. It's because he sacrificed himself and got scratched by the outlaw lion. So yeah, that's when Taka was like, "Oh, this is Scar," and I don't think this is a big, whatchamacallit, like shocker, a big twist in the film, because I would assume that if you are a fan of The Lion King 1994 and 2019, that you would know, like, okay, if we're gonna get the origin story of Mufasa, at some point you are gonna come across Scar. But instead you have Taka, and it gets all confusing and all of that, but might I digress? But yes, Taka ends up being Scar. And there's this whole scene where Scar is like, "Don't call me Taka anymore," and then Mufasa is like, "Okay," and then Scar's the name. Okay. So that's Mufasa. I know I've left out a lot of things, and that's okay. But what did I think about it? Did I think it was good? No. Was it better than the 2019 version? 100% yes. Whereas with the 2019 version, I could not stand it, to say the least. Like, at all. I did not like the 2019 version. If you like the 2019 version, that's perfectly fine, but I did not like the 2019 version. It did not capture the original story. And like I said earlier on, there's like so many reasons why we should love the 1994 version, including the fact that the B team worked on it and it ended up becoming such a success. The fact that they got a group of animators, who literally proved to their own company that we can do better than the A team. And that's what they did. The fact that they went to parts of Africa and took pictures of the savannah, the fact that they got a lion into the studio with a bunch of animators who were like sketching the lions out, with like a lion keeper who was explaining to them the behaviors of the lion. And I can go on and on and on and on as to why the Lion King just holds a very dear place in my heart. So for me, the 2019 version clearly did not do it for me. I hated it. It was a 3 out of 10. It will never get higher than that. I'm sorry. I liked exactly 2 aspects of that film, and that was it. With Mufasa, however, there were aspects I absolutely did not like. The fact that they gave Mufasa superpowers. The fact that the superpowers were inconsistent. The fact that even though the creatures are all very expressive, the camera angle would literally go up to their faces. And I'm just like, I do not need to see your face that close. I get it that they really wanted to show, like, oh, see how expressive the animals are now, it's better than the 2019 one. And yes, but we could see that from a distance. We do not need the camera, like, if I'm me filming this review, I do not need to be filming like this the whole time for the whole 30 minutes. You are fine seeing me here, and it kind of like it kind of gave me a bit of a shock with the fact that they did do that in the movie. I also did not like the fact that, like, just the how they portrayed the male lions in this movie, where the father Obasi is like, well, now we're going to do the most important part of being a lion, taking a nap. I get it, it's supposed to be ironic. I just did not like it at all. um Yeah, so to me it was just not as consistent as I would wanted the story to be, and then of course the fact that they keep on going back to Rafiki telling the story to Kiara, to the story that we actually get to see. I feel like again they should have made that part smoother, or they should have cut out that part entirely and just have the story being told from Mufasa. The first scene that we should have seen should have been Mufasa as a cub, and then seen the story. I don't know if it was maybe they wanted to expand on a bit of time, maybe have Timon and Pumbaa in there, but yeah, I could have maybe done without it. Um, yes, the big twist at the end of this movie, not the one you're expecting where Taka is Scar, but there's a part in the movie where Simba and Nala come back and they have a little surprise for Kiara. They had another cub, and I forgot the name of the Kiara's little sibling. I know that there's a Disney series where we see, I think it's called The Lion God, and we know that the main character in The Lion God is the son of Simba and Nala. So I guess it's canon now in the the 2019 version and the 2024 version, or rather the Lion King 2019 and Mufasa 2024, that Kiara has a sibling. And I did find it cute that when Kiara went to go see her baby brother, that now she wants to tell the story. So I did find that to be a bit cute. But was this movie good? Not really. Is it terrible? Not at all. I think if I have to give a very honest rating, I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. There are a lot of aspects where I just did not like it. Some of the songs I could have maybe done without. Some of the other songs I found to be pretty catching. I did in fact like Mufasa and Sarabi's relationship. I actually feel like they could have showed a bit more of that. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Lion, not on the Lion King, on Mufasa the Lion King. I'm rating it a 6 out of 10. So if I rate a movie a 6 out of 10, it means that it's average in my eyes, but I may just watch it again just so that I can see if maybe my opinions can change. So potential, maybe. But thank you so much for joining me as I speak about Mufasa, the Lion King. What are your thoughts on this movie? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Who is your favorite character from the Lion King? This could be either from the animated versions or the 3D animated version. Also, let me know if you would ever want to watch, if they had to make a third Lion King movie in that same animation style, would you go ahead and watch it? We had an interesting update. Allegedly, has stopped making Disney live action films, all because of the low box office ratings of Snow White, which is an interesting thing to hear. But and also that, and knowing that they paused Tangled's production. So with all this in mind, it's like, yes, I have hope for 2D animation again, but at the same time, we do know Lilo and Stitch is coming up. And I do have to admit, even though I'm not a big fan of the Disney live action remakes, I am looking forward to Lilo and Stitch. Um, And I feel like as soon as Lilo and Stitch may just, I have a feeling Lilo and Stitch is going to get high box office rating. You know, it's going to make a lot of money. And as soon as Disney sees that, um, they may want to maybe continue with the live action films. But I have hope that maybe we can get back to 2D animation. I think it would be really interesting to see what films can be out there, even if it means that they're making sequels, like just as long as it's 2D animated, like bring back what Disney represented, and that was the magic and the feeling of hope and the, I mean, watching an animated Disney movie, like a 2D animated Disney movie, it brings out the child in me. I get so nostalgic. And I've always said this, like, as soon as I have a child, I am showing them the 2D animated flicks. I'm showing them the 1994 version of The Lion King. I'm showing them the original Snow White. I'm showing them the 1998 version of Mulan. I'm showing them Cinderella. I'm showing them Beauty and the Beast. I'm showing them The Little Mermaid. Um, Putting a bit of a key on the Little Mermaid part. I may, if I have a child, I will actually show them the live action version, because I heard that the live action version of The Little Mermaid is good. But yeah, the point that I wanted to say is, I really just, in terms of the films that I want to show my kids, I'm showing them the originals, not the remakes. And in my opinion, the originals are a lot more memorable than the remakes. I've seen the remakes. I've seen the Aladdin remake. I've seen Beauty and the Beast, Lady and the Tramp, Pinocchio. All of those remakes, no matter what I think of them, I don't remember much from them. But if you had to ask me about the animated Beauty and the Beast, the animated Lion King, the animated Little Mermaid, I remember a lot. And then a lot of it has to do with the actual film itself, not just the memories that I've sort of formed around those films, if that makes sense. But thanks so much for joining in. So Mufasa, it's just an okay movie. I really wanted it to be good. I really wanted it to be up there, but it's unfortunate. So yeah, it's a 6 out of 10. Maybe Disney will see that we as fans are better off watching a 2D animated film. But we never know. Thank you so much for watching. If you did like this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Also, if you are a fan of film and television, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, just so that you do not miss a video. Comment down below who's your favorite Lion King character, and also what is your favorite Disney movie of all time. I would love to know that down below. Are you a fan of the live action Disney movies, or are you also like finding them okay or not good at all? I would love to know your thoughts down in the comments. But thank you so much for joining me along for this ride. I hope you have a lovely day further, but other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.